Hello, and thank you for joining us at Formula1blog.com. This is Todd, and I'm joined for this Canadian Free Practice 3 at the Canadian Grand Prix anyway with Paul Charsley, professional driver. Paul, thanks for joining us again this morning.
Oh, you bet. The cars are on the track.
On track. The cars
dry track.
Yeah, for now. Right. They're calling for a little bit of possible moisture, cloudy skies anyway, and it has been definitely cooler over the balance of this weekend for sure from what the teams had faced before. I got to think, Paul, that's going to, there's been a lot of talk going into this race weekend with the tire pressures, the Pirelli monitoring those tire pressures, setting limits for tire pressures. Certainly there was even talk out of Monaco about the ability to get temperatures in these tires, these cool temps, and the apparent bulletproof nature of the Ultrasoft, Paul. I got to think these cool temperatures going to make a little bit of a tactical gamble for these teams on how best to get the temperature in these tires. Yeah,
for sure. A lot of teams were a little diverse in their choices of their tires. Some teams actually opted for the soft, which is probably not going to be a good choice, as you said, knowing with the temperature here. So the Ultra Softs we saw from practice 2 actually last quite a long time. Some guys are getting some 20 laps out of them. So it's going to be kind of similar to what we saw at Monaco, where you can go quite a long way even on the softest tire. So limited pit stops probably here, depending on the weather, of course.
Yeah, right. And I think Harry Anto, did he just say there were some drops? I don't know what he was talking about there.
He's freaking out in the car. Right?
What are you saying, Rio?
Yeah, so obviously this session is when they're trying to get ready for qualifying, right? So they're going to try and eke all the time they can out of and get their strategy going for qualifying. We saw a lot of longer runs in practice too, but then looking at the weather, it looks like, even if there isn't rain now, it's looking very likely there's going to be at least a mixed batch of wet, dry in qualifying, and maybe the same for the race.
This is, I was trying to see if it looks a little slippery out there, but.
Yeah, it looks a little green, looks a little dusty. Obviously this isn't a racetrack that's used every day. It's only used on this weekend, or maybe one other weekend it used to anyway. And so every day a little dust gets on there and you go back a little bit. But everyone seems ready to play right now, getting out there. So it may be something to do with the weather. Everyone wants to get at least their laps in before any rain does come in. Obviously, sometimes we see everyone kind of sitting in the pit lane, just kind of watching each other. So Marcus Ericsson yesterday in his jacket on pit lane when the practice was going on. So it's like, what are you doing, Marcus? That's
in the car.
Than you. Yeah.
There's Maurizio Arrivabene. Ferrari. Got Kimi Räikkönen says, he's still trying to make sense out of this car. He was having some struggling, I guess, free practice too a little bit, trying to get on top of the balance of the car. Sebastian Vettel did markedly better in free practice 2. Lewis Hamilton set the pace at free practice 2 and free practice 1. But interesting, Paul, the Sebastian Vettel, Kimi's teammate, was just 2/10 behind Lewis Hamilton's quick time in pre-practice too.
Right. And as we talked about right before we came on air here is obviously you don't win anything in a practice. We're talking about engines and turning engines down. And so no one's really showing their full cards yet, certainly not in practice. So, with the restrictions on the engine use, it doesn't make any sense just to turn that engine all the way up for every practice session. So they may try it a couple of times here in P3 just to see exactly where they are, getting ready for qualifying for sure.
Yeah, certainly. Lewis had commented about this team right here. Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo at Red Bull said, "Hey, they're a legitimate threat. They in free practice, or at least in the sessions on Friday, they weren't running the engine full tilt." So he says by the time they turn those up, he thinks they'll be a threat. And Daniel Ricciardo himself, Paul, said, yeah, he felt good this weekend. He's gotten over his Monaco blues. He says ultimately he thinks that this team, this car, can challenge Ferrari in Q3.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously we've seen Red Bull do it before. They've never been one to be the fastest in the speed traps.
Yeah.
they make it up all in the braking and the cornering and traction coming out of the corners. The new chassis are just amazing beasts, and their philosophy has always been different from everyone else. So we can't tell anything by the speed track times. We're just going to see what's in their playbook here as the weekend goes on.
Well, they go right to the top of the timesheet. Daniel Ricciardo, Verstappen set the quick time, followed by his teammate Ricciardo. Is Verstappen in a little slow-mo. He is on the super soft compound. Vettel, I believe, was on just the soft compound on that first run he did.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. Obviously their allocation of tires, what they're really thinking they can get away with in qualifying. You want to save, your premium tire for the race. And if you can get through at least Q1 without, putting on the ultras, then you're probably in a very good place.
Yeah. Now Nico Rosberg out on track. Now Mercedes, Toto Wolff, you'll be happy to know, Paul. Toto Wolff said, look, Nico's been with this team since 2010. Our big priority right now is getting him re-signed. So he says we're working with Berger. And he said, I've known Gerhard Berger for years, and so is Nicky. And Nico didn't want to get heavily involved in the negotiation, taking his mind off of his championship bid. So he's got Gerhard doing it. And he says, I'm sure they'll get it worked out. And the press report said that maybe a couple of the hanging points might be money. And the length of the contract. Oh, imagine that. I want a lot more money for a lot longer.
Yeah. As what was he's in the 90s in the income list, all sports top sports.
Yeah.
And Lewis is 11th.
Yeah, exactly.
He's that's not something to
And he's like at 21 million, and Lewis is over 40.
yeah, that's probably needs some readjustment there. And the interesting thing will be on the contract, on the length of the contract. Honestly,
yeah, that'll be interesting. That'll be key to it.
Yeah, as we talked about yesterday, Pascal Wehrlein is waiting in the wings, and you wonder just what strategy Mercedes want to play with him. Do they want to move him up quickly? Do they want to be patient and tie Nico to another couple of years, 1 year, who knows? And the other thing is sometimes you sign someone to stop them being against you.
Right? Yeah, right.
You throw Nico out and he joins Ferrari, then Ferrari have a double-barreled gun if you're thinking that Kimi Räikkönen isn't quite pulling his weight at this moment in time.
Yeah, some interesting comments out of Force India, Sergio Perez, regarding not necessarily the Force India car and Nico Hülkenberg, to be honest, but they were comments that I read that the team had made about McLaren. Nico Hülkenberg says, look, they look better this weekend, says that McLaren's pace is in his calculations for the rest of the season. He says that every weekend they're bringing new stuff. They're getting better and better. And he says, no, they're a factor, man. And every weekend they are in my calculations. Sergio Perez added to that and says that McLaren's pace is a bit of a surprise for him. He said there didn't seem like a lot of room for improvement for his car on Friday. He said, look, usually you show up, you run, there's some improvements. You feel like, I think this is an issue and I think we can make a lot of gains here. He said, really, the car is pretty balanced and just want a lot of room to improve it on Friday. And McLaren, they were quick. So McLaren definitely have gotten the attention of Force India with their new turbo upgrades. Unfortunately for Button, we remember that smoke incident in the garage we saw in Free Practice 1. That was due to an oil leak. Honda knew that. They called him back in. Now he has reverted back to his Monaco ICE engine, his internal combustion engine. Now they're keeping the new turbo on the older ICE, but he's reverted back to that engine. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. Alonso says, look, at the end of the day, you've got teams like Williams and Force India, who we expect to be very strong here. And when you add that to the list of Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes, well, that's your top 10. But he said, I think this may be a race where not being in Q3 could actually help you. Yeah,
well, be interesting to see that. The McLarens, obviously, yesterday we saw were the slowest by quite a margin in the speed traps, but they still were able to, and whether they eked out more speed in the later on that we didn't see, but they definitely got themselves up there in the top 10. I think 7th for Button, something like that. So yeah, I mean, the resources of Honda, they're going to make progress probably more than anybody else. And as Sergio says, that there's not a room for improvement, because for the most part, these guys know these cars by now very well. Certainly the Force India team does, because I think it's a lot of from last year is brought over to this year. It wasn't a whole new concept.
Yeah, right.
But they know the track really well, so they pretty much come here very close to their optimum package from when they get going, as to when they get to the next race in Baku, where they've never been there before. It's going to be a whole new ball game, and so there's going to be a lot of guesswork there, but not a lot of guesswork when you're on the boats setting the cars up for Canada.
15 or 20 minutes away from rain is what McLaren's telling Alonso.
All right, and so we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, getting close to the 13s here in times.
Yep.
Some people were speculating they may qualifying may break the track record. I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, you said that was what, 112 and change, Paul?
Yeah, 112.3. Yeah, 12 and a half. I don't think they're going to get below the 13s, but that's still a dramatic difference from last year, where Lewis's pole was in the mid 14s, so they're already below that. And obviously, as we spoke about before, you turn the wick up for qualifying with the engine, etc. So there's still a little bit of time just in dialing that in for the qualifying session alone.
Lewis out on track on the Ultra Soft. Both the Mercedes have been out on Ultra Soft. The other team's out in Super Soft and even soft compound. So it's kind of interesting what they're testing out tire-wise here.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they're not at the top of the time sheets while they're on the Ultra Soft as well.
Yeah,
so we saw Lewis come out of the hairpin there. Actually, just out of the hairpin, that used to be the original start-finish line way back when the track opened up. The track hasn't changed too much in certain areas, but quite a lot in that area from the hairpin down to what is now turn 1.
Right.
There didn't used to be the long straight here. That's become quite a feature of the Canadian track. They used to sweep back to the right and the left and the right again. And then, right after the center incident, where there was chicanes put in everywhere where there was speed. There was actually a chicane on that back straight for a couple of years, and then they reverted to the configuration pretty close to what we got right now from 96 onwards.
There's your winner in Canada, Jean Alesi.
Yeah, that's right, 95. I was there. I was soaking wet. Yeah. I had, as I said yesterday, I had garbage bags over my head, not rich enough to buy a coat, evidently, at that point in time in my life. And but you had to, it was a busy time. You wanted to get your position right there. So if you can't afford a seat, you got to get there early. And there's a lot of standing room in Canada. It's pretty cool. Right. This area right here where we're seeing the Williams go through is a great area to see driving technique, and you can really see a lot of, like when we go to Coda and we go to the S's, you can really hear and feel what each driver is doing, their throttle control, where they're braking, how far they're carrying the braking in, what gears they're using, etc. Really good place to see the different techniques of the drivers.
Ferrari now out on ultra soft compound. They originally started out on just the soft compound. I did see the speed traps there. McLaren's at the bottom of that list so far. At the top of the list, Paul, Red Bull.
Oh, wow. There you go. So whatever I was saying was complete bull then, obviously, that they're not going for speed trap times. That's very interesting. That's, as I said, very different from their usual percentage of downforce over top speed. But obviously that kind of hurts you in the straight line speed, which is a key area, obviously, with double DRS zones here. The DRS activation is right before, halfway before you down that little straightaway coming to the hairpin. It's pretty far back from the hairpin. And then basically you got free reign on DRS coming out of the hairpin once you pass that DRS line, and once again coming out of the chicane onto the start-finish straight. So if you don't get it done the first time, you get it done the second time. So there's a little bit of a strategy calling there, whether you actually want to pass somebody into the first chicane and maybe wait till the second chicane, make sure they can't get you back.
Yeah. Kimi Räikkönen goes up to third fastest. Lewis overshot the corner on turn 11, Champions Wall anyway.
Yeah, he did a lot of that yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. You and I've watched Lewis his whole career, and a lot of people talk about, oh, he's really ragged in free practice, and that's Lewis. He's always been that. He's always pushed the limits of each corner to find out where those limits are. I assume that's what he's done. I've watched him do it his whole career, and that's not uncommon. See him come down and run wide at that turn. He's finding those limits, and it always seems amazingly that when the green flag drops, he doesn't go wide there, but he knows where the limits are.
Yeah, and you wonder why they bail out so quickly, why they don't try and fight their way through that chicane. Well, the key is they're trying to save those tires, right? If you really try and fight it, obviously you may end up in the wall, but also you're trying to preserve all the tire allocation you have, just in case you need it.
Daniel Ricciardo out on super softs, Jolyon Palmer on ultra softs here, both fresh sets.
Yeah, so if you're at home and I don't know where you are in the world listening to this, and obviously the timing is different, right, for what we're seeing to what you're seeing. But maybe if you pause your set or whatever, so we're all in sync, it might make sense. We're either soothsayers looking into the future, or where were you a minute and a half ago? Right?
Yeah, right.
The beauty of DVRs these days is you can pause your life. So.
That's right. Daniel Ricciardo will get a replay here. Verstappen got a little bit of a warning for balking Valtteri Bottas yesterday.
Yeah. Obviously, these guys, they sometimes hang back to get their space for their hot lap, and if they're not fully aware, that was a nice little slide there.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Yeah, that's nice. Look where his eyes are. See that, Todd? He's not.
Yeah.
He's not looking at the wall. He's looking down the road. That's the key to racing school right there. Look where you want to go.
Look where you want to go.
Yeah, not where you're headed if you don't want to go there. That's for sure.
Made Christian Horner happy, too.
Yeah.
Here we got Fernando Alonso, McLaren out on Ultrasoft. Right now, your leader, Verstappen, at 1:14.310, followed by Hamilton, then Ricciardo, and Raikkonen, then Rosberg. I don't know, Paul. Your pick of Lewis Hamilton for the win, it's starting to look good. I read Nico Rosberg's commentary out of free practice too, and he's like, gosh, I don't know if it's my line that I'm driving or if it's just air pressures. I don't know. We're going to have to look at that. And I'm thinking, wow, that sounds like somebody who has really no idea what's going on, of why you're half a second off your teammate.
Are we seeing a chink in his mental armor that's been
I'm wondering.
Pretty stout recently?
Yeah, I'm wondering. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I wonder, what we're seeing here, we're seeing some of the guys on the ultras not really putting in a super fast lap. I don't know if they're getting that temperature in. These are 2-lap tires rather than a 1-lap tire at this point. You see them weaving left and right.
Yeah, Perez was just weaving there, getting heat in his tires.
Yeah, and we talked about yesterday, the best way to put heat in your tires is actually through acceleration and hard braking, using the downforce there to really put the energy into the tire. But once you get up to a certain speed, obviously the downforce is really coming into play. So when they go left and right, maybe they can get just a bit more energy put in by doing the little swerving there. But ultimately, we always see it on in amateur racing. The guys weave like crazy from at very low speeds without a downforce car, which does nothing really.
Does nothing. Yeah,
it's a lot more beneficial to accelerate hard and brake hard than you are to go left and right at 20 miles an hour.
Felipe getting a little close to that wall. Had the crash in free practice 1. They blame that on DRS, Paul. It's interesting. He said, the DRS stuck wide open. I'll be honest, if it did, I didn't see it. I watched the replay of that crash several times, and it didn't look like to me that the rear wing was wide open, but they'd know better than I would. Yeah.
I mean, they had some issues with Felipe. Where was it, China? I'm not sure if it was this year, last year, where they had some issue where the air wasn't reattaching to the rear wing quick enough, even after the DRS was closed. on the Williams. So I don't know if it's something to do with that, where it's just a matter of it was closed, but it but when it was closed, it didn't reattach quick enough, and so he got a little light on the downforce on the rear. And if that downforce helps in the braking, right, it's pushing that tire down the ground helps. And if it's a little light on the downforce in the rear, then the rears can certainly lock up.
Speaking of Williams, Paul, we got a big, a little polite hand clap there for Claire Williams. She was just given the OBE by the Queen.
Yeah, no kidding,
That's
right?
Great news. Yeah. Great job for Claire.
But still no knighthood for John Surtees, which to me...
That just blows my mind,
It blows my mind. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, the only guy on bikes in and cast to win world championships. I mean, astounding, really.
It is astounding. I don't know. He must have... There's got to be a story there somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe it involved too much alcohol, lampshade on the head one time at the winter. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know either.
What would it be? Sebastian Vettel out on a fresh set of ultras right now. He's 1/10 under the top speed of 114.
Yeah.
Ferrari looking pretty good this weekend, all things considered, in free practice 1 and 2. Definitely look a lot better. They brought a new turbo for Sebastian Vettel this weekend.
Yeah,
so that's good. And this circuit,
they need to regain some of their momentum they were having at the end. They've kind of stalled out just a little bit, but
yeah, definitely.
We will see. And of course, all these tokens being spent are all going to be for now next year when they don't have tokens. So
right,
they got to adhere by the token rules for now.
Right.
Yeah.
And that circuit's a beautiful circuit. Part of the Olympics back in what, Paul? That would have been back in the 60s, I believe it was.
Yeah, that's where the big expo ball or whatever was.
Yeah.
Just for
the geodesic ball.
Yeah. I'm not sure what you do with it, but you look at it for sure.
All right, here's the Swede, Paul. You don't F with the Swede.
Well, you don't. I would. Yeah.
He seems to be leading your boy Nasser right now. So
he's just waiting. My Brazilian friend there is just waiting to pounce.
Like a tiger.
That's what everyone's got their eyes on this weekend. Once again, the Sauber battle.
The Sauber battle, I know.
Yeah.
It's riveting back there.
It's riveting back there.
He's showing up.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's pretty, this is a tight field right here for Canada. Sometimes you see some bigger disparity there with aero and power and all this kind of stuff. But as the years tick on with this new engine formula, we're seeing the gaps close up. And then, of course, we're going to throw it all into the washing machine for next year. So it'll all change again. But
Right. Well, I mean, as it stands right now, you got 2.5 seconds to win the entire field effectively. Yeah,
which it was. If you look way back before they had the new teams, so to speak, which aren't most of them aren't in existence anymore. Before that time, that was how close the field was. So we've kind of back to that era again.
Yeah, sure. Paul, this track, talk to me just a little bit about this track, because I was reading some commentary from Jolyon Palmer and the Renault team. They were saying that at this circuit, you hit the curb practically every turn, and you take the curb every turn. And he said one of the things that Renault is struggling with is it isn't so much, hitting curbs in F1 cars is not a great deal, a good thing necessarily. But at this track, you do hit every curve, every turn. And they said it was the landing of the car that's the important thing, not so much the hitting of the curb, but the landing of the car after the curb. And that's what they said that Renault was really struggling with their chassis this weekend. Right. Is that, you find that, at this track, you take a tremendous amount of curb at this track?
We for sure, yeah. I mean, in my track talk there, we went through it pretty detailed, but for the most part here, there's lots of left rights or right lefts, so two-prong chicanes here. And the best advice here is to take a big chunk of that first chicane part, either whether it's a left or right, just take a big part of it. And you kind of over-exaggerate the turn for the first half. And what that does, it opens up your options for the second half, so you can straighten that wheel. Now, as John Palmer is saying, to do that, you have to take a big jump on that curb, but it's also how you land, because once you land, even if you're not taking air, obviously suspension's, going up pretty high and coming back down, is you want to be able to put the power down very quickly, because if you're making that tight exaggerated turn. When you go back to the other direction, that's ultimately where you want to start picking up the throttle. Now, if the suspension isn't complying with the track very much, you're having difficulty getting back on the throttle and getting that power down. So you want the car to absorb that landing so that then instantly, as soon as you're coming off that curb, you can start feeding in the throttle. If the car's not reacting quite so well off the curbs, you're having to delay that power delivery, which obviously is affecting your exit speed.
Yeah. And that's what's Kevin Magnuson, same thing. He's saying, it's really the curb riding that we're kind of struggling with at this circuit with this particular chassis and setup. And they even split the chassis setups, trying to find the best setup for a chassis for this curb riding, and they're still struggling with it. So
so you'll hear it too if you listen to the in-car cameras. Well, Lewis has 2 helmets. Maybe he's giving some Justin Bieber a ride later on or something. But, yeah,
you didn't like that helmet.
No, I didn't like that one. That's very interesting.
Maybe. It was interesting. Did you see Felipe Massa's commentary about Lewis, saying that Lewis's lifestyle, he needs to stay focused on Formula One, that his lifestyle is a little crazy, and he needs to keep his mind and his focus on Formula One. And Lewis laughed it off and said, well, I wasn't the one that wrecked in free practice one. So, my focus is fine, Felipe. Don't worry about me.
And honestly, Felipe, if I was racing Lewis Hamilton, I'd tell him to party on more. Yeah,
right. At this point, it seems to be doing well.
Yeah. So as I was kind of saying with the coming off the curb, so you'll hear from the in-car camera where the people pick up the throttle, whether they pick it up instantly when they come off that first curb, or whether they have to kind of get a little throttle, then kind of feel where the rear end is, and then get a little harder on the throttle as well. So it really is key. You were talking yesterday, saying a point and squirt. Yes, acceleration grip is extremely important coming off the corners. The sooner you can get on the power and stay on the power, the more speed you're going to have. And also, as we know, braking is paramount. There's so many points where you're under extreme braking, and braking is marginal here, trying to get the brakes to last the whole race. So all this comes into play in getting the speed. There's not a lot of long sustained high grip turns that you chewing up the tires. So it really is accelerate, brake as hard as you can, get through that chicane as quickly as you can, get on the power early. It's a unique circuit in that way, and it's very challenging for these guys, and it's good fun. Good fun.
Felipe Massa, a little replay here. Lock up in the hairpin.
Yep, his rear wing is attached to that point. That's good.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, long lock up, kind of light, so it wouldn't have damaged the tire too much. But
now we've got Daniel Kvyat off in a runoff here. Where is this at, Paul? Is this
He looks like on the back straight, maybe?
Yeah, the back straight.
Where the bridge is.
Yeah, right.
If I had to take a guess. He's doing his best Austin Powers impersonation right there.
He's back out. Now, the team say, look, Daniel Kvyat, he's got his mental strength back. They felt like, there's a lot of upset when he moved back to Toro Rosso, but Franz Trost there says that he feels like, Kvyat's calmed down, that he's got his mental strength back, and he feels like, he ought to move forward at this point. And, that's all nice pleasantry, Paul, but boy, it's a tough thing to be in the top team, effectively be demoted back down to this team. And in so many ways, this young man, it just seems like he's had issues, one issue after the other, and leading him to say,
I just have this for me all the time.
Well, it does it. Yeah, I think what he needs to do is stop talking.
And drive. Yeah,
and that is difficult, right? It's difficult.
Oh, here's the rain, Paul.
You're getting a microphone stuffed in your face every 2 minutes. It's tough not to actually talk back to the reporters when they ask you these questions.
And they're going to ask you those questions. But the rain is here.
Rain is here, so we may not see a whole lot of running right now.
No, may not. It looks like we're going to have a damp qualifying, Paul.
Yeah, could well be. Now, this circuit, obviously, it's not used as a racetrack very often, so it's not. So a rain line per se isn't as obvious here as it would be at a track that's used every day, because obviously when there's tracks used every day, there's a lot of rubber laid down on the line. It's very polished, and so in the rain that becomes exactly where you don't want to be.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so you always want to drive off of what the normal racing line is to gain grip. So you'll see some people making some very different lines once they get to the rain. That's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to avoid the slipperiest part of the track to gain that grip. Now,
and I don't recall this track being a super efficient drainer of water either.
Right. That probably more of an issue than a rain line. So they'll probably, obviously there's a bit of rubber laid down here from them running this weekend, but they can nearly stay on the race line even if it's raining here. But as I said, some tracks that would absolutely be where you absolutely don't want to be. Actually, there's a story about the Glen, Gilles Villeneuve himself, just obliterating the F1 field by using that strategy, which I think then became adopted by everybody. But he just drove everywhere to try and find where that grip was on the track, spinning 4 times trying to do it, but ended up being like seconds ahead of the whole field in that practice session. You really are when it starts to rain, everything changes, and you're a constant evaluator of grip, and you're sniffing for grip, as my friend Ian James says, every corner, and trying to find out where it is, put that in your vault of memory, and see where it is the next, and make the best guess of where that grip's going to be a minute and 30 seconds later. And that's where the good rain drivers and evaluators and the et cetera make those gains in the rain by making their predictions better than other people are, really keeping your eyes open, your brain open. And that all comes into play with being, a driver within their limits.
Yeah, right.
About having some extra capacity when you're out there and drive to pull in other information, and that really comes key in the rain, because you got to be on your toes, you got to be aware, you got to be ready for anything to happen with the car, slipping, etc. But if you can keep that just extra 10% of capacity for evaluation of the track from lap to lap, as I said, it's a big advantage.
Yeah, it seems like it's certainly. There are certain drivers that really do excel at that, and that's been true for the history of Formula One. But when you look at drivers that I always think that come to mind, Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton's one of them, Jenson Button, Alonso, they seem to be able to hunt down those lines in the rain and make those work for them. And they're just really, really good at it. And then you saw Nico Rosberg at Monaco in the damp, so really struggling, getting temp in the tires. Vettel, here's his radio. And Renault didn't move out of the way. I thought he was going to say...
What are we doing here, honestly?
Yeah. Is this ping pong?
Yeah. So Palmer's actually ahead of Magnussen for the first time.
Yeah, up in 16th and 1.5 seconds on nearly 1.6 seconds off Vettel's pace of 1:14. There's 26 minutes left in it. Vettel's leading right now, 1:14, almost a 1:14 dead.
And
followed by Verstappen.
Like the rain's gone away, so it's just a sprinkle.
Yeah, it looked like maybe it was a sprinkle. And oddly enough, Paul, it was just on one part of the track. In Canada, it can be raining on one part of the track and not the other.
Yeah, and obviously the track's still pretty good since Vettel's the first one into the 13. So
yeah, right. Here's Roman Grosjean. And there's a good example, Paul. He wasn't going to make the he bailed out quickly, saved the tires. No damage. He just knew he wasn't going to make it. Bails out real quick. And they do that pretty quick right there. You could sense it. Yeah,
that's a nice little in-car camera for that position.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's a great. Yeah, it's a great. It's more driver eye level.
It is. Yeah, that's close to what it feels like.
Taking a lot of curb there, Nico was.
Yeah, he had to go on the inside passing someone, so his line was kind of obstructed on the entry. So to make up for that, he had to take more curb, and still got a pretty decent lap time. So
yeah.
There's life in the old dog yet.
Oh, he's not happy. Was he not? Who was that? Is that Palmer or Magnussen?
Yeah, it's another Renault. Those Renaults. What's wrong with the Renaults this weekend?
You're gonna hear Nico go.
Hey, it's just practice.
Yeah.
Easy, boys.
Not happy.
Yeah.
Not happy at all.
Yeah. And the thing is, even if their lap is bulked just a little bit, they've got, when you look at the data, you can kind of see
It was K-Max.
where your optimum lap would be.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to be able to estimate where that lap would have ended.
Although an estimate never is the actual. So even if you're just driving, well, yeah, I guess, but unless you do it, it didn't get done.
You didn't do it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Sebastian taking an interesting line in that turn.
Yeah, got a little understeer there on the turn in.
Yeah.
On that, we talked about it yesterday, seeing that entry. There's some good time to be gained by good rolling speed right there at that first turn, and Schumacher was the best at it right there from what I saw in my history of going to this track. It just that little bit of extra mile an hour coming in there without losing the front end can gain you some good time.
Yeah. Esteban Gutierrez in the hairpin, well off the pace. We'll see if he throws down a decent lap here. He's on his out lap.
He's doing a good job in that car. He's had a little bit of bad luck, but he's holding his own against Grosjean, who I rate highly, so it's good.
Yeah. And Roman this week said, why, yes, as a matter of fact, I would take a phone call from Ferrari if they called me.
Oddly enough,
he
would be a good choice, man. He would. I
wouldn't think twice about that for taking the call from Ferrari and moving over to the Scuderia. And I'm thinking, no, you probably wouldn't. Lewis Hamilton again, like Seb, same turn. Might be a little slippery down there.
Could be, but
yeah.
They're pushing. I mean, these guys, I said, it's pretty tight between the Ferraris and the Red Bulls here. So there's no doubt Lewis has made a lot of tiny mistakes trying to eke out all that speed. So
here's a replay of K-Mag.
A lot of rake in that car.
Yeah. Same thing. I think it's a little slippery down there because you got the Renault going off right at the same spot. That's three. That's Vettel, Hamilton, and Kevin Magnussen all going off right there.
Yeah.
That must have been the area of the track that was sort of sprinkling on. Daniel Ricciardo getting shoved back into the garage.
Yeah, a little sprinkle on the camera still, so we never know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
right now it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it can change, instantly where you just lose seconds, and it doesn't have to take much rain to do that.
Now that's interesting. Lewis went through the pit and right back down to the exit of the pit.
Well, he may just be doing a start practice, and you can't do that anywhere else,
right?
Other than pit lane. So he may have buzzed his tires, and instead of getting a little extra couple of dollars out of those tires and do a little start practice, he needs the practice evidently. So
that start hasn't been his friend of late, that's for sure. Here's a suspension angle of Nico Rosberg. This is always kind of nice to see how that suspension reacts. See if they show it hitting any curbs. I knew they would move away from the world feed just as I said that.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly enough, is your feed ahead of mine, Paul?
You're just a bit ahead of me, actually. You're like half. You beat me today.
Yeah, today I beat you. Yesterday, it was the other way around.
Yesterday, I pushed a gap ahead and I kept it. But
Great. Oh, look at that crash, Paul. Oh, no, I'm joking. It looks like is that Raikkonen coming in? Yeah, that's Sebastian.
Yeah, well, Raikkonen's he's a ways off of his teammate there, but obviously with the conditions as they are, not many people are going to be able to improve at this point. So depending on what they were going to do in the session and when they were really going to go for it, they may not be in time.
For Fernando Alonso, Paul, I think one of the frustrating things if you're a Fernando Alonso fan, and there are a lot of them around the world for sure, is that you've got a guy with that kind of talent. And it just hasn't been fighting for the championship,
for so long.
For so long. Yeah. Since what, 2006, right?
Well,
and so,
yeah. I mean, he was fighting for the championship.
He was in Ferrari, came within a point or two there and 9 and 10. But gosh, it's tough to see a guy like that back struggling so much at a team. It's just difficult. And, you could say, well, he made his own bed, signing with teams that weren't on the top. But, I don't know that he had a lot of option in a lot of way. But on the flip side of that argument, you could say, look, you were at Ferrari, man, and you had the resources of Ferrari. And it's not that he didn't try, but it didn't happen. It just didn't happen like he wanted.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that darn Russian kid.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That last race of the year,
at Renault and Abu Dhabi, right?
Yeah, he could have had another championship.
Yeah,
and then DRS comes in and ruins everything.
right. Lewis Hamilton been pushed back into the garage. He's running 5th fastest, 0.4 off Vettel's pace.
Wow.
Here's your boy Felipe Nasser.
There you go.
Straight out of Brazil.
Yep. Yeah, obviously the team not bringing any updates still struggling for funding.
And payroll.
Yeah, and a good livery designer, evidently.
Yeah. Manisha said they're working, they've been working on some deals. Now, not quite sure if that means sponsor deals or outright purchase deals, but she said, look, regardless, none of those happen overnight. They take time to clarify, to nurture, to make happen, and it takes time. And so we're certainly working on them. Here's a team,
Wow, NASA's kicking up a lot of
I saw
that twice on this lap already. Jeez.
Yeah. He's pushing the limit, Paul.
It's that Swede, that pesky Swede is making.
Well, it's in his head.
His life a misery. Yeah,
that's the problem with the effing Swede. It gets in his head. But it's tough. This is a team you'd like to see picked up by somebody else. It would be great to see some resources put behind Sauber.
Yeah,
but
it would have been a good one.
Yeah, Aston Martin would have been great. It's a tough year for Felipe Nasser. I mean, he's been handled by Marcus Ericsson for sure. And
he has, yeah.
He complained of the chassis at the beginning. They gave a new chassis. They had that coming together in Monaco. He ignored team orders for 6 or 7 laps. And, it's a tough year for this guy. But, like anything else, Paul, you're a driver. You've driven for teams that are light on resources and cash. It's not just the owners that are concerned about it. The drivers are concerned about it. These are their livelihoods. This is Felipe's chance in Formula One, and he happens to be with a team that may not give him a chance.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure I drove for a team with any resources whatsoever.
right.
So I think I spent my life driving and it's massive. I mean, and it's psychologically big for the drivers because that another team has more resources that the driver they're racing against has an advantage on you already. And that's tough. And it can lead to you over driving, try and compensate for the lack of, upgrades or, technology on your car versus someone else, even in GT racing, which is obviously more of what I did than Formula car racing. You could all GT3 Aston Martins are not the same. There's all kinds of different things that can be on or not on those cars. Even though they look the same from the outside, there can be radical differences in the technologies in the car, and you may have a great driver struggling, further back in the grid, and a lesser driver up ahead purely because of those details.
Right.
And and as you said, even in the same team, you're seeing Ericsson, doing a good job, and that it can barrel roll into a real mental game, and you can send yourself down a path that's really tough to get back out of, and be in a good place to get the most out of you.
Right. And it's got to be tough, when you are a guy like Felipe Nasser or Marcus Ericsson, and you feel like you're a better driver than Gutierrez or Palmer or one of the Perez or Hulkenberg. You feel like you're on par. That if you were in that car, you'd be doing some great things, and it's got to be psychological and very difficult, knowing the team could shut the doors at any time. Yeah, it's just really, really tough.
Yeah, that is tough, and yeah, I mean, who knows? They could be staying at a Motel 6 here. That's
Yeah, right.
kinds of stuff going in the room next door. Very distracting, before a race day.
Could be staying at fake Charlie Whiting's house there in Canada.
Could be
drinking Labatt's and
no, he'll be drinking Heineken for sure.
Yeah, right. A shill.
He's all over the Heineken.
Yeah.
Although I'll admit, when we hung out at Coda weekend, he was on the Heineken stand, so he's true to his word.
He comes by it naturally, that's for sure.
He does. God knows why, but
yeah, he does. Carlos Sainz,
in a green bottle is worth drinking for sure, in my opinion, anyway.
No, great aerial view of this track and that final turn.
It is.
Yeah, it's a super. And Carlos Sainz on a scrub pair of Ultra Softs.
Okay, I wonder what they're trying to achieve at this point.
Well, there was a radio message said that the track was dry now.
Yeah.
So he said a 120. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're working on here.
Yeah.
Well off the pace for sure.
Yeah, and you see a lot of guys blowing the hip in there. It's a key area to get good lap time, but a lot of guys have been jumping or not getting the car turned in right there. It's a key to get on the brakes as hard as you can, but you've got to get that car turned in at the right point. Then you can release that brake in the middle of the corner, and the straighter you get it, the earlier you get it out of the hairpin. Really, really important. So if you blow it and you get that, you overdrive into the corner and you run the rim, you are not only taking the long way round, but the car actually is straighter later in the corner, so you're not able to actually get on the power earlier either. So
right.
Really is a key point to getting a good lap time is getting all the way down to that midpoint of the apex of the hairpin, getting the car rotated early, pointed, getting on the power, and away you go.
Not good here. Got a Renault into the wall, Kevin Magnussen.
He looks like his head's moving, so that's good because you can take a mighty whack right there.
Oh, yeah, that is not good. Red flag for the session here with just minutes left in the session. Renault obviously concerned in the garage for Kevin Magnussen. Yeah, he's moving around, taking the wheel off. That's really good sign. As you said, that's a hard wall. That's a concrete wall right there, Paul.
Yeah, and you really are, as I said, you're buzzing the limit every time on those exits and using all the roads you can, trying to keep that momentum going.
Okay, they radioed him. Kevin said, yeah, he's okay. So that's good news there. Yeah, there's 12 minutes left in the session. Medical car is on location. He says he's all right. Red flag. Carlos Sainz goes through, tiptoes through the carbon fiber.
So obviously they'll take their time getting him out there. That's a pretty big whack. You want to be careful. Yeah,
right. Here comes the safety car.
So that whole seat will come out if they really need it to. It looks like he's climbing out anyway.
Yeah, he's out on his own. That's good. Yeah, he looks okay. That's good.
So like outside of the turn 7 area?
Alan Permain, folks at Renault there. You know what the Canadian Grand Prix needs? They need the hipster marshal from Australia. He would have had this cleaned up by now.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is.
Is that turn 5?
Boy.
Where are we at?
Where are we at? Yeah, here it is. Boy, you could hear it.
Oof. Sound like wheel spin.
Yeah, it did sound like wheel spin, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the world feed didn't quite catch everything. But
it did. Turn 7 then.
Turn 7? Okay. Yeah, it did sound like, listen to the world feed. It definitely sounded like wheel spin as he got on the throttle.
Yeah, and you can kind of see some rubber mucks on the curbing. And now if obviously a little bit of rain splatter, the track may be dry, but the curbs will hold the water just that little bit longer with the paint, etc. So it could be that he got his wheels on the paint, which were still just a little bit damp, and that would have caused the wheel spin.
That, Paul, is an X Renault. Here it is on board. Wow.
Whoa. Yeah, no, it snapped before he got on the curb for sure.
Yeah.
So he got.
Yeah.
We did hear the engine note raise. So look, if you got wheel spin right there on the exit, could well be. We talked about it in track talk where right there you can, two things can happen on the exit there. You can either get the line just a little bit wrong and pick up understeer, or a little bit too greedy throttle. The back end will just snap on you, and it looks like that's exactly what happened. Out of 7 and out of 2 are really key areas where it's tough to get the power down cleanly, and obviously always getting the power down is a key to lap time. So those are the hardest points where you're really dancing with the rear end, trying to feel where that rear grip is. But it did seem to spike really high, which was...
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't know if they'll get this session going again.
Yeah, there's only 9 minutes to play here.
Yeah.
Here's the onboard again, Paul. Let's take a look at this. Makes the entrance, and here's the exit. On the curb a little. And then the back end snaps out.
That was quite savage. You'd start to pick up the throttle there, but you wouldn't be at full throttle at that point. So it's...
Here's an overhead. Let's see if this captures the entirety of it.
He got quite a bit of that right-hand curb, which is somewhere you don't really want to be.
Oh, yeah, the camera took... Yeah, here it is.
Cameron was looking at his shoes.
Yeah. But he heard it. He heard it.
Oh,
he caught up with it. Quick, I heard something. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's an X Renault there. The team's got a lot of work to do to get that car ready for qualifying, Paul.
Yep.
A lot of suspension damage. It can be done. Certainly, you look at free practice 1, Felipe Massa clouded that wall, did suspension damage, and they were able to get that car back together for free practice 2. So
yeah.
These teams work their tails off. The session will not be restarted. That is the end of free practice 3.
Yeah. We're talking about the tubs. I mean, when they come to the Grand Prix, they have a spare car, but it's an unassembled car, right?
Yeah, it's pieces, yeah.
So it takes a long time to put that whole thing together if they have to do that. So as long as the tub itself isn't damaged, it's still quicker to change everything, all the suspension, everything on the outside than it is to try and build a new car. So the first thing they're going to do is evaluate the tub, see if is any damage to it. If there is, they'll usually, they won't be able to fix it. If it's pickup points, etc., that have been pulled away from the chassis. But if it's just the outside pieces that are broken, it's just a matter of unbolting and bolting new stuff on, then they can do that.
Yeah,
it's harder to change an engine these days than build all the suspension on the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a shot at Jolyon Palmer there in Renault, and I think he was telling Alan Permane, I don't know what Kevin's problem is. I didn't do that.
You might want to change the status in the team after that mess.
Yeah, right. Well, gosh, and that's your number one? No,
yeah, although Jolyon didn't have a good day at Monaco, did he?
No.
He had just a little bit of wheel spin too.
Right. There's Nico Rosberg talking to his boys.
He's looking happy. Happy about something.
And there's Carlos Toro Rosso, probably getting ready for his exhaustive debrief with on Franz Toast.
Yes.
There's Franz. Speaking of, there's the man.
Yeah.
My funny story from Austin with Franz Toast.
What was that? It wasn't his birthday too, was it?
No, it wasn't his birthday, but I was in an event. It was kind of a who's who event, and everybody was there. Bernie Eccleston, everybody was there. And it was interesting. Later in the evening, Franz Toast comes in by himself, makes 2 laps of the entire room, grabs some appetizers, stands at a table by himself, slams down the appetizers, and just walks out. Not one person talked to him. And by the time I thought nobody's talking to Franz Tost, I'm going to go over and talk to him. It's, hey, Franz, what's happening, man? It's your old pal Todd. And by the time I got over there, he had already hit the cab line and he was gone. It was
that's your one chance.
My one chance. Yeah, I know. So there it is. Marcus Ericsson besting Felipe Massa in free practice 3. The Williams of Valtteri Bottas quite a bit down there in 12th. It's a little interesting. JB down in 13th. And then both the Haas's a little lower than they were in free practice 1 and 2. All of those times set on the Ultrasoft. And a little moisture on the lens there. So as they're getting that Renault up on the lift.
Yeah, and I had a question on what is the time differential between the Ultra Soft and the Super Soft, and quite honestly, I have no idea. It's really hard to tell at this point because no one's really run. Everyone's been running on different programs with fuel levels and scrub tires, etc. The only time we'll really get to see that difference really is in qualifying at this point, if we get to see slick tires in qualifying.
Yeah, right. And we may not. If they're calling for rain in qualifying, we may not be able to see that.
Yeah, and I'm obviously the rain throws in something into the equation that can make life interesting. But this was actually brewing up to be a pretty tight fight in the dry. It would have been fun to see, but it doesn't look like that's actually going to happen. Hopefully our friends in the stands there have a nice umbrella.
I don't know if it'll start raining or not. I'm with you though, Paul. In the dry, I think you're right. I think this is shaping up to be quite a battle and pretty tight. And as much as I enjoy a wet race, and like you said, it can add a lot of dynamics and a lot of interesting excitement to a race. I kind of would like to see these teams go toe to toe in the dry here, because I think it would have been tight. I think it would have been interesting. Yeah,
no, for sure. I think it'd be pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah,
I was really looking forward to it, but that's the way it is. So we'll take it.
It happens. Yeah. Well, gosh, that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess a bit of a sour end to the practice, but interesting nonetheless. This is it now, right before qualifying, so we're gonna have to play the weather and listen to our NBC boys on the next session and see what they have to say about all this.
Right. Are
you crazy?
We'll have to find out. Hopefully they can get that Renault put back together.
Yeah, it's how many we've got a couple hours before.
Yeah,
a couple hours. That's gonna be tough.
Yeah, it's gonna be tight.
Gonna be very tough. Luckily they don't usually qualify very high, so it may have to be a pit lane start there for the boy. The
crew putting down some oil dry. Huh.
Everyone's scavenging for their
piece of carbon fiber.
Later on.
Look, I got a piece of Kevin Magnussen's front wing. And when they take those to the office and set it on their desk, it's this hunk of trash. Or it looks like some hunk of something, and they're like, "No, this is like part of the end plate from the left side of his wing." And their coworkers are like,
"Okay."
Yeah,
whatever.
This did cost $30,000. Now it's $3. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Well,
so that does it. Well, it's been fun chatting with everybody, and thanks for joining us for Free Practice 3 commentary. We've had a good time chatting over the Free Practice 1 and 3 session. I hope you've had a good time, and thanks so much for joining us as always. And then we have qualifying to get through in a couple hours' time, and then we've got the race as well, and that will come on Sunday morning. And then after that, Paul and I will have a race review podcast, so be sure to tune in for that. And until then, we'll speak to you on the podcast. Take care, folks.